Today we have a crazy revenge story about getting back at a dad who decided to date someone younger than their own child. We'll get to that in a bit, but first, try parking there now entitled Butt Hats. I work in a gas station and the area along the front of the building is striped as a no parking zone. Entitled people love to park there anyways, just for smokes, etc. I don't know why, but I've worked here for 3 years and it's one of my pet peeves. We have regular parking spots on both sides of the building. Heck, I don't care if you take up a pump if you need to run in and grab smokes, just don't park where it very clearly says no parking. Yesterday, we started repaving. I'm on third shift, so one of my tasks was to move the cones into a spot, close together, where they can be collected or moved by the paving guys in the morning. They did half the lot last night. So I complied. I moved all 8 of Ohio State Flour, skinny version, into a nice line down the middle of said no parking zone. Feels good. I mean, really, can you be all that shocked that you have some area listed as a no parking zone and somebody who's, trust me, I'm only there for a second, doesn't care and rolls in and takes that spot up anyways? No matter where you are, there's always going to be some kind of jerk like that. Sean Bezier wrote, Jersey barrier, the plastic type, and fill with water halfway. Then if they park there thinking they can simply push it out of the way, they damage the vehicle all on camera. Let them put the claim in and send the video to the insurer as a reply. Guaranteed no claim completed and instead refused for breaking the law. And also likely for deliberate damage and attempted insurance fraud. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy awesome stories of revenge, it would be awesome if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. That said, our next story is Karen asks for trouble, will receive it. Driving through the back roads of my rural town a few days ago, I passed through a fairly densely populated spot where people were walking on the roadside, children were playing, and dogs were running loose. So I slowed to 10 miles per hour below the posted speed limit, 15 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone. The local Karen comes running towards me screaming, "Slow the freak down, don't you see our dogs running around?" As a matter of fact, I do see them. I'm also driving slow enough already that you were able to run over here and yell at me. I also know that our town requires dogs to be on leash at all times, not running loose, it's the law. I hope she enjoys the surprise visit from the local animal control officer sometime in the next few days. So I was gonna say, I don't really like the prospect of these dogs if they get captured or taken or repossessed by animal control. But at the same time, these owners are letting them run around on the street without leashes, and then telling off the people in the car as if it's their fault. Courage Mise en Mise wrote, this reminds me of something that happened last year when my husband and I were doing a forest bird survey. We were out at mid-morning in our car with the windows rolled down, conducting point counts on a dirt road that winds around a small lake. There are cottages at the far end of the road, but we were surveying the wilderness end on behalf of the HOA, which was established by the residents to protect their lake and the wildlife dependent on it. We were parked on the side of the road, way to the side, at one of the widest points of the road and far enough away from any curves so as not to create a road hazard. We noticed a car slowly coming toward us and spotted a woman at the wheel. She stopped next to our car, which wasn't a surprise really. We've experienced this before on other surveys, with folks offering us assistance or just generally curious about why we're stopped there. She asked what we were doing. When we told her we were looking or listening for birds, she jumped down our throats and said, "You shouldn't park here, I almost hit you." Lady, if you almost hit us, you must have been driving with your eyes closed. And on the wrong side of the road. It felt like we were being scolded like teenagers who'd been caught parking in a car on a back road. My husband and I are in our 60s. She really had a bug up her butt about us parking on the road. If you're going to be a busybody, then at least come up with a better line. Almost hit us? KPSI 355 added, "You almost hit us. A parked car, way to the side with plenty of visibility and no curves, and you almost hit us. Have you considered that maybe you shouldn't be driving anymore if your control is that poor?" That said, our next story is, flip me off, then stay behind me. This happened a couple of weeks ago while riding my bike. Note, this was in Belgium, Europe, where bikes come before cars. A delivery service driver denied me a way of right, pushing me in the gutter, causing a near crash. When I yelled, he just stuck his hand out of the window and flipped me off. But I continue my way, and I'm taking a bike-dedicated street. Cars can't overtake bikes, and there's a max speed of 30 kilometers an hour, around 18 miles per hour. Just when I entered the street, I noticed that the delivery guy is right behind me. So I slow down and I can feel him pushing. So I slow down a bit more. That street was about 3 kilometers, 1.8 miles, so he stayed quite a long time behind me. The time he gained by cutting me off, he lost times 2. When he passed me when the bike zone ended, I gave him a little wave. I couldn't see what was happening behind me, but I'm using a Garmin Vario with rear camera. When I got home, I checked the footage, and I could see him raging and banging his steering wheel. I don't know if it's exactly the same situation in Belgium, but with the way companies treat their delivery service drivers in the States, it's almost like part of your job description to try to shove somebody on a bike in the gutter so you can keep going as fast as possible. Just kidding, they pretend like they care, but they just keep pushing you to go faster and faster. Sean BZA wrote, share it with a delivery company head office, sending it to the CEO office. Guaranteed that the CEO secretary will call up the van video of this and get confirmation of it even from the cameras in the van. And there will be a short interval and an opening for a new driver or him getting transferred to some nice place, like doing deliveries in Ukraine, for example. Our next story is, your food is taking too long when the brand new restaurant is packed? New restaurant just opened, maybe a few weeks in, and of course the place is slammed because everyone wanted to check it out. And being in a not so great area, the food was exceptionally good. I go to check on one of my tables and this lady screams at me that she ordered her food an hour ago. I don't do confrontations, and thankfully my boss was right there, so I let him handle it. I went to check the ticket and it had been 45 minutes, along with every other ticket that was waiting. Yes, it's been a while, but the place was new and super busy. What do you expect? It was so awful that tables that weren't even mine were stopping me to ask if I was okay. A year or so later, I saw her in a different restaurant I was working at, and thankfully she wasn't in my section, but I warned my coworker. Thankfully, she just so happened to show up again, and it was my last day. I could hardly contain my excitement. As I left, I stopped at her table and said, "You probably don't remember me, but I waited on you about a year ago at X. You screamed at me in front of the entire restaurant, and I just thought you should know you're a terrible person." The text I got from my coworker after was awesome. The lady started flipping out, demanding to know my name, but all management said was, "She doesn't work here." Edit, this lady, probably in her 50s, was going to find something wrong anyway. Before the incident, I could hear her benching to the 2 other people about how there was no culture in the area. "Woman, you're in Flint, Michigan. People don't come here for the culture." The restaurant lasted about a year. I left after a few months when the only competent manager left. Yeah, everybody knows the only reason you go to Flint, Michigan is for the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl. Let's go Tropics. FU Creeps wrote, this is why I don't go to grand opening nights for restaurants. I've seen both sides. It's always kind of a crap show. Let everyone get the bugs out and try version 1.2 several weeks later. OP responded saying, look at you over there with all that common sense. Our next story is, my brother threw a cat-ticked soaked shirt into my bed. Layout, there's a hallway and my brother's room is at the end of it on the left. My room is located right next to him on the left too. There's a hamper that we both use to put our dirty clothes in. Petty revenge part, one of 3 cats that we have is very particular when it comes to litter boxes. If it's not clean enough, then she'll do her business on whatever fabric she can find. This time, she ticked on one of the shirts next to my brother's room, which I didn't notice since I've got a weak sense of smell, but my brother did notice. He eventually got sick going in and out of his room smelling that shirt. So his solution is to pick up that shirt, assuming with his bare hands, and throw it up into my bed, where it stayed for hours, soaking into everything. It landed on my pillow and my recently cleaned bed sheets. I didn't discover the shirt until I went to bed last night when I saw it. I was pretty confused what it was doing there, only when I got close enough when I was actually able to smell it. Since this happened at the head of my bed, I tossed out all the affected stuff and slept awkwardly at the foot of the bed. At that point, I didn't know for sure how the shirt got there. So I asked my dad, did you toss a red shirt into my bed? He said no. I then asked the same question of my brother, who was half naked making coffee in the next room. He promptly answered with yes, saying he was sick of smelling it. I'm currently ticked, so with permission from my dad, I was able to make an invoice for my brother to pay. We'll have to wait until he gets home from school to see what happens next. Why didn't he just pick it up and toss it in a trash can? You should sooner toss that out the window than put it on somebody's bed. Professional Peach 127 says, is this your cat? And how long does your family let pee-soaked items of clothing just sit in a hallway? OP responded saying, it's a family's cat, and it's generally taken care of right away, but in this case it was my shirt that was ticked on. So in my brother's eyes, it was my issue to deal with, but neglects to tell me about it and opted to leave it there for a few days. Our next story is, rub my belly, rub it good. I'm on the chunkier side, not unhealthy, BMI within normal parameters, but I got curves. I went to a store wearing one of those tops that cinches in below the chest, above waistline. I guess it accentuated them curves. Never wearing it again, that's for sure. Rando older lady comes up to me, puts her hand on my belly and asks when I'm due. She's got that big smile on her face like we're besties already. She's positively beaming. I put my hand over hers, smile back and say, I'm not pregnant, I'm just fat. Her face falls. She tries to pull her hand back, but I hold it there, counting away the seconds, positively beaming. When I finally release her, she scampers away without a single word. I mean, ignoring the fact that this is never something you should do anyways, assuming somebody's pregnant, you probably should not be in the habit of assaulting somebody, putting your hands on a total stranger, especially their midsection without ever getting it cleared. Queen of Hodglets wrote, I was in Target and 1,000 months pregnant in the checkout line. A woman did a full reach around. I mildly lost my crap and wearing this shirt at the same time. Yes, I'm pregnant. It's a boy. I'm due in September. No, you can't touch my belly. Any more questions? The cashier was crying laughing. So yeah, no touchy. The alienated penguin wrote, I was 17 months pregnant, not happy. Old man touches my belly and smiles. I look at him and ask if he would be touching my stomach if I wasn't pregnant, and he was taken aback and said no. I then did that low growl scream thing and said, why the heck are you touching me now then? You don't even know me. I'm not sure, but my head might have spun around once or twice as well. He left immediately and did not speak afterwards. Our next story is, I bought the property he wanted. He was a jerk about it. The backstory, here in Sweden there's a huge difference in house prices between popular areas and major cities, compared to the countryside. This meant that I was able to buy a small fixer-upper house at the age of 23, 4 years ago on a very average income. There was only me and one other bidder involved, and I eventually won the bidding at a reasonable price. The house is located a bit outside town with only one other house next to it, as well as an empty lot. Shortly after moving in, an older guy came knocking on my door. He told me he was the other bidder and the owner of the empty property, and he only wanted my house in order to tear it down and make more space for his friends' RVs. He finished by essentially saying, enjoy your pile of junk. Since then, he spent most of the summers in a lawn chair next to his RV on the empty property, with a clear view up my driveway and shooting me dirty looks every time I walked or drove by. Now, as I said, the house is a project. And I've made many improvements over the years as time and money has allowed. There's always something that needs doing on the house, and I'm also the designated mechanic for friends and family. There's usually a car or two getting repaired in my garage. This means lots of noisy tools. I've made sure to always start some kind of project when I see him sit down in his chair. This has gone on for a few summers now. He gives me dirty looks. I make noise. Only on reasonable hours though. I don't do anything he can reasonably complain about. Today I continued on my bedroom remodeling, and it seems my circular saw finally broke him. He turned his RV around and put the chair in the opposite direction, where there is an actual view as compared to my driveway. I see this as a total victory. I don't know why, but in my mind, I'm just picturing like the perfect hillside sunset view behind him, and he's just stubbornly in front of it facing the wrong way, looking at your driveway, listening to your circular saw. It's like pure nirvana behind him with rainbows and butterflies. But nah, he just wants to make you more uncomfortable. Stronger Thongs wrote, my in-laws dared to outbid on and buy a lot and build a house next to a family who also wanted the lot. To maintain privacy and build a pool or some such. That family has been horrible to my in-laws for like 15 years now. When father-in-law lost a job, the neighbor started making comments about how he'd buy the house once my in-laws had to sell and how he'd put a pool in the backyard. Yeah, I think that'll really make a nice spot for the pool. Just a real butt about it all? Well, this loser finally bit the bullet and started getting his precious pool installed on his own property and had 2 contractors quit on the project. So he just had a massive ugly pit in his backyard for at least 6 months. For some reason, the contractors didn't think he was pleasant to work for. In-laws are finally planning to move, and they've told the realtor in no uncertain terms to never sell it to the neighbors. Our next story is Bully's last day before emigrating. A kid that picked on me in primary school ended up emigrating when his dad got a job in Papua New Guinea. I suppose we were maybe 7 or 8, so I'd put up with him for at least 2 years when he left. I had no idea why he took a dislike to me, and we did have friends in common, but the little freaker would consistently call me racist remarks and get in my face, make me feel like crap. A bizarre 6-year-old's attempt at being racist, as I'm maybe a third Indian and the rest white, and most people look Italian, but I guess logic doesn't come into it. I found it really upsetting, but was completely unequipped to do anything about it. Some kids are really quick and aggressive. I was a bit gentler. My heart would sink every time I saw him, as I knew you'd have something mean to say. Happened to be that on his last day, he was sat on the coach seat in front of me and started sticking his hand down the side and through the gap between the coach seat just to freak with me, flick my stuff about, etc. Knowing I wouldn't have to endure his bullcrap anymore, and instinctively knowing there would be no long-term consequences, I grabbed a hold of his arm and twisted it hard for the duration of the coach journey, which was an hour long. Saw him later that day looking sad and rubbing his sore arm. None of his friends wanted to get me or anything because they were mostly my friends too. Most thought he had it coming, so 0 consequences. Hope he had fond memories of his last day in an English school. Surprise, surprise, a bully finds out that there's consequences sometimes for being a total jerk. Kids sometimes can just be weirdly cruel, they just want to hurt other people. I don't think you can say that they didn't deserve that arm cranking they got that day. UpDoc69 wrote, I'm half Native American and used to be really dark in the summer. Every school I attended, I was the darkest kid there. In high school, there was a group of kids who made it their mission to make my life miserable. Every class I had, one of them would sit behind me and constantly whisper, "Go back to Africa," even though my ancestors were here for thousands of years before theirs. As far as I know, they're all dead now and I'm still kicking. Joining the army and blowing up crap and shooting automatic weapons downrange is good therapy. By the way, I was an expert marksman, the highest rating possible. Our next story is 7-year-old's revenge at church. When I, male 49, was 7 years old, there was a particular member of the church that was a total jerk. This dude was mean to kids when no other adults were around, often calling us stupid, in the way, waste of time, etc. He also played the electric guitar for the praise and worship team at church. The problem was that he always cranked the amp way up and played that guitar really loudly, enough to drown out everyone else. One day, between Sunday school and the main service, I was exiting the bathroom, and he was at the door waiting for the bathroom. He commented, "Get out of here, you stupid kid." As I entered the main building, I spotted his stupid guitar, which was unattended, and nobody else was around. I untuned his guitar, making sure to turn some knobs way up and the others way down. As the music started, he turned his guitar amp to the 150 dB level and started playing. What came out of that thing was the worst screeching, off-tune garbage. I sat back looking innocent and enjoyed watching him freak out and spend the whole time trying to retune his guitar. Who's stupid now, mister? What I like about this story is nobody was actually really hurt. Well, save for anybody's ears that had to listen to that nightmare. What it really does is just serve to make that guy look like a total fool that doesn't know how to maintain his instrument. Separate ad 9916 wrote, "This is the way to seek revenge. No real damage done, but plenty of embarrassment and confusion. I would love to have heard it and seen the look on his face." Our next story is, my gross dad started dating a girl younger than me, so I started dating a guy older than him. See how he likes it. My dad, 57-year-old male, started dating Becky, 25-year-old female, 4 months ago. For reference, I'm a 26-year-old. And my dad and mom, to note she's 54, divorced when I was 24 2 years ago, and this is his first relationship, to my knowledge, since mom and dad separated. My dad had become the proverbial rich man dating young bimbo upgrade douchebag, and it's made my mom feel like yesterday's trash. Him and Becky have such an obvious transactional relationship that it's making me question how he sees women. Like, what? Was he checking out my friends growing up? Is that something I have to worry about now? Freak you. I've tried expressing to him that their relationship makes me uncomfortable for every obvious freaking reason, but he won't listen, and I'm tired of his blatant disrespect and dismissal of my feelings. So, if he sees no issue with it, then I guess neither do I. This weekend was Becky's birthday, and my dad threw a massive garden party for it with her bimbo friends plus his friends and his business partners, all I'm sure so he could try and get his creepy buddy set up with her gold-digging friends. But you know what? Since that was the vibe, why wouldn't I join in on the fun? So what did I do? I found myself an older man and decided to bring him as my +1. How old is he? He's 62. So let's just call him Old Joe. Only fitting if his girlfriend is younger than me that my new boyfriend be older than him. So the party starts. I'm on my best behavior with him and all his friends, acting like I support it all when I leave to get my new guy because he just arrived. It was honestly art coming back up to him and all his friends sitting together at the main table, the birthday girl basically hanging all over him to introduce them all to my old butt boyfriend. I wish I took a photo of their faces. What's wrong, Dad? You don't look so good. Becky, you should get his heart medication. This party might be too taxing on him. And then I sat on Old Joe's lap. I made sure to be as shameless as his new girlfriend, and yes, I felt disgusting doing it, but it was freaking worth it to watch my dad basically throw Becky off of him, which ruined her special day. I cannot express how satisfying it was to watch him fume from across the table. But what was he going to say? And the best part? One of his partners knew Old Joe. They were golf buddies. And before he could say anything to me, I made my exit with Old Joe because he was taking me on a private boat ride, and we didn't want to miss our port departure. And now he's calling me nonstop, and I just keep sending him to voicemail, though I did text him about what ED medication he takes, so I could recommend the brand to Old Joe. At this point, I don't care how this affects our relationship, because I am disgusted with him and his choices. I am satisfied with the payback, and I hope he likes the taste of his own medicine. Edit, to anyone asking about Old Joe and claiming that I freaked myself over in this process. 1. I never slept with him. I ditched him after we left the party. 2. He was in on the whole thing, but only because he thought it was kink related and that he would be getting action afterwards, which was never the case. Yes, I did things I'm not proud of. I took advantage of the guy, but he thought he was going to be taking advantage of me, thinking I was an easy target because I had daddy issues. So I don't feel bad about that or for him. I only slightly feel bad for myself because I sat on his lap. 3. I don't know why any of you are concerned over this guy. He was a creep. He willingly came to a party where he presumably knew no one there because he thought me peeing my dad off was part of a kink game. He was weird, and in my opinion, I freaked over 2 gross old men that day, so I pat myself on the back. 4. Sorry that I don't like the idea of my dad treating another human being as a sexual object and trying to throw that back in his face by making myself into that objectified person. And I have that opinion of their relationship because I'm watching it unfold in real time. If you saw them together, you would understand where I'm coming from. He is handsy with her in public places and in front of me. And yes, she has a choice in this, but to play into that dynamic is also weird. And I feel bad that she's become so complacent in her own exploitation. That's sad. But if he really wants to be with someone younger in a transactional relationship, clearly I can't stop him. But is it really so much to ask at his grown freaking age to have some freaking respect for your daughter and keep that crap out of my face and out of my life? I don't think so, but I guess that's just me. I mean, I can't lie, I personally do feel like it sounds kind of gross. When the age gap is that severe, it almost has to be some kind of transactional thing, and it's kind of awkward to pretend that it is anything but that. Technical Lobster wrote, "My dad, late 40s, used to say he would trade my stepmother, 40s, for 2 20-year-old girls. She responded by saying, 'Great idea, throw a party. Your daughters, 20s, can invite their friends, and you invite yours, so your daughters can choose a boyfriend too.' That shut him really fast. Free Falling Up 13 wrote, LMAO, I did something like this. My dad was driving us around a city for my birthday and we turned a corner and found a university. He said, oh, that's why there's so many attractive girls, there's a college here. I was turning 20, so I instantly leaned forward and asked him how he thinks about wanting to date girls that are his daughter's age. Also shut him up real quick. Editing to add, wow, the creeps came out in full force for this one. Too many people out here thinking it's okay for a 42-year-old man to try and get with an 18-year-old that is younger than his daughter just because the girl is legal. Free block list in the replies below. Our next story is, he clogged my toilet, so I stunk up his bedroom. So I, 25-year-old male, live with a roommate, 22-year-old male. We rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. My bathroom is in the hall by my room and his is in his bedroom. When not in his bedroom, he tends to go straight for my bathroom if he has to go. I'm usually nice and accommodating, so it didn't really bother me until he clogged my toilet. I go to flush and then suddenly there's fecal matter and toilet water rushing over the lid. So I quickly used a plunger and was able to avert a worse crisis, but man, my bathroom stunk. I was so mad, I just went into my room to huff and puff waiting for him to get off of work. Of course, he clogged my toilet in the morning before he left. When he got home, instead of telling him what had happened, I waited until he went in his room, then followed him in his room, which is pretty small, and I just started ripping butt. I farted at least 7 individual times and fanned the fumes towards him. His room was a smelly den of flatulence and my roommate was so mad. My bathroom smells like crap. Let's see how you like it. A small little victory, but it made me feel better. He did apologize profusely and came to scrub the poop stains off the inside of the toilet. And while he did that, I went and took a dump in his toilet and didn't even flush. You'll definitely never make the mistake of using my toilet again. Does anybody think that OP specifically sounds like the worst of the 2 roommates? I mean, if there's like some kind of understanding that he does use the other bathroom as well, it's not like he went into that bathroom with his hands bunched up like, alright, we're gonna try to ruin this thing before I head off to work. It's not like the dude went and used the bathroom in the morning and couldn't get it to flush and stomped it down the toilet and walked away knowing that it would cause an issue. Karma822 wrote, so let me get this straight. He poops in your toilet and clogs it, and let's assume he knew he clogged it, which isn't known. You decide the appropriate response is to follow him into his room and fart a lot. What are you, 5? Then they agree to go clean the mess and you decide the next course of action is to poop in their toilet and not flush? Jeez, your roommate not only admits fault but does the dirty work to fix it and you decide to escalate. I hope you two end up in a full poop war. You at least deserve it. Frisco Janet wrote, this is purely rhetorical question and I don't want an answer, but how much do you poop? Do you always have one in the chamber? How are you able to weaponize your poops in this way? I guess we'll never know because that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.